Welcome to this week's episode of the Punk Popcast. This week we have Fall Out Boy's Take This to Your Grave. Welcome again to this week's episode of the Punk Popcast. As always, I am Brad, and as per usual, I'm joined by our guy on my left. I've got Jason with me. How's it going, Jason?
It's going all right. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, so this is one of our favorite albums. Jason, I think this is one of your top 3 that you listed in the first episode. Is that right?
It was, yeah. And it was going to be on your list as well.
It was going to be on my list. This is an outstanding album. It's Fall Out Boy's Take This to Your Grave. This is their first major release. This came out in 2003 on Fueled by Ramen. So I have kind of a funny story about that. So I was first introduced to Fall Out Boy at a Yellow Card and Less Than Jake show. They opened. They were touring with them. Okay. And Fueled by Ramen, I believe, is the drummer for Less Than Jake. It's his record label, I believe.
I think so, yeah. I know it's tied to Less Than Jake.
Yeah, and so that's why they were with them. But so there was somebody in the crowd handing out Fueled by Ramen samplers. And I had heard people talk about like bands on Fueled by Ramen. It was like I think they would say like they're fueled by ramen, they're fueled by ramen or whatever, you know. And so I got this sampler, and there's a big bowl of ramen on the front. It was like the logo, and it said fueled by ramen, and I was like, but I didn't see at the bottom it said sampler. So I was like, fueled by ramen, I love these guys. Because I had never heard a song off of Fueled by Ramen that I didn't like. And I think mostly what it was, I'd heard Fall Out Boy and this other band Punchline that we'll get to another time. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I love these guys. This is awesome. So then I was listening to it and I realized it was a sampler, and I was like, oh, I see now. Fall Out Boy, I just saw them, and it was Dead on Arrival in Chicago is so 2 years ago, were the 2 songs on the sampler by them. And I kept telling my friends, like, dude, you got to check out Fall Out Boy. They're awesome. Like, these 2 songs on the sampler are outstanding. And I didn't realize until a year later when I bought the album that those aren't even the best songs on their album.
No.
The entire thing is just flat out gold. Like, just outstanding. And so, and that's part of the problem that we ran into with this, right? Jason was picking just 3 songs a piece to talk about.
Yeah, because top to bottom, I think it's a phenomenal album. It's not even just a great debut. It is just a great album.
Exactly right. I mean, this could come out now, and I think it would still hold up. Because
I think it does still hold up.
Well, so. Yeah. I think it would do I actually think it would do better now if it came out than it did then, just because it was such a small label. If it came out on Island, like From Under the Cork Tree did, I think it would have done much, much better than it did.
Could you just imagine if it came out on Fueled by Ramen now with social media?
Oh my gosh. It would be a firestorm.
Yeah.
It'd be much easier. It'd be much easier for them to get the word out about it, and I think that's the word that it deserves, and has always deserved. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this, Jason. Let's get talking about some of our favorite tracks off this album. Why don't you lead us off? Like I said, this is one of my favorite albums ever, and I don't think we can go wrong with anything here. So go ahead and start us off.
So I'm going to steal your gimmick, and I'm going to go with the leadoff track as one of my songs. I'm going to go with Tell That Mick He Just Made My List of Things to Do Today. Just a phenomenal opening song. You're the big opening song guy. This is the song. It sets the pace for the entire album, lyrically, musically. You get exactly what you're walking into from the first chord.
Yeah, you do. It's true. You really do. And like I talked about with Sticks and Stones, how Understatement punches you in the face. That's what this song does. It starts off with that, and it punches you right in the face. It gets going, and it never slows down. It never lets up. Like Saturday has a little bit of like a slower section, you know, and then what is it? It's Homesick at Space Camp has a little bit of acoustic at the end, but like other than that, it's going. Like you're in 4th gear, and you're not downshifting at all the entire way.
And I mean, lyrically, it this song sets you up to know that this is a breakup album. Every song is about the same girl.
I love it. I love it so much. It's so good. So Jason, you and I were talking before we came on, and I said, I don't know what I thought the lyrics were before, but now that I know exactly what is being said or sung in the pre-chorus, it's so much better. Let me just go through this real quick because it's like it's so funny because it's like they're typical Fall Out Boy lines or typical Pete Wentz lines. But and by that, for those of you who aren't familiar, by that I mean it just paints such a perfect picture and cuts so deep. The
Yeah.
pre-chorus says, "Let's play this game called When You Catch Fire. I wouldn't piss to put you out. Stop burning bridges and drive off of them so I can forget about you." It's like, oh, to tell us how you really feel.
I really think Fall Out Boy might have been the first ones to really talk about, to go that deep as far as
Mm-hmm.
the feeling towards an ex, to talk about. I mean, the chorus is his smile's your rope, wrap it tight around your throat. Like they really they hammered home some of these words in
Yeah,
their
they
song.
did. Well, and you know what? You know what too though. Like with this, because I've said that the Eminem is like the Shakespeare of our generation, as far as like um, the his descriptiveness, his ability to rhyme and things like that.
Yeah.
But I would honestly put Pete Wentz up there as one of the greatest poets of our generation, as far as the lyrics that he puts onto records, because they're harsh, they're direct, they're incredibly creative, and they're very descriptive, using a lot of metaphor.
Yes. And
And I
they
think
only
it's
get
awesome.
better.
They do, they do, they do. That's the thing, is that this is just the beginning that we're going to talk about from Under the Cork Tree next week, and it just gets better, just gets more descriptive, more metaphors, and more puns. Like it's fan freaking tastic, and this is just the start. Just this track is just the start of all of it, and it's amazing.
It sets the table.
Yep, it does. All right, let's go. Um, I'm going to talk about. I don't remember if this is mine or yours or not, but I'm going to go with Dead on Arrival.
It's
This
yours.
was my okay. So for me, Dead on Arrival and Chicago So 2 years ago like blend together because they're on that sampler album. So I never know. I don't know. But this was basically, so I saw Fall Out Boy live, and it was one of the most amazing concert experiences of my life. Right. I was two people from the front. Joe Troman's pick hit me in the chest and it fell down to my feet, and I valued my life more than to try to bend down and pick it up. Because I was like, hey, either I leave that pick down there at my feet, or I try to get it and risk not being able to come back up. So I left it. I tried to stand on it until Yellow Cart, like until they were done playing and everything, but it didn't work out. But anyways, so um, so seeing them live was my first overall experience. But that sampler and then Dead on Arrival was the first track on the sampler, I believe. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I need this entire album. I need the full version. But Jason, I couldn't find it. Couldn't find it anywhere. I think I told you this, that it took me a year to find it in a store called Media Play, which is obviously no longer around because those
Oh,
places
I
aren't
miss
around anymore.
Media Play.
You know Media Play. I used to get in so much trouble at Media Play for playing video games for way longer than I should have. But anyways, so I finally found it and I got it, and I played it for one of my friends. I played Dead on Arrival. He's like, "Oh, this is really good." It's like, "Yeah, it is. You've had this CD sitting in your case for a year, and I've been telling you to listen to it because this is outstanding. This is like it's unreal. They rock so hard." And so I think Dead on Arrival is always going to have a special place in my heart with this band because of that experience, because it was my first like real introduction to who they were beyond live. Because if you don't know a band live, you're only getting half the experience.
Yeah.
You don't know the words, you don't know what to expect. All you're getting the visual, and you're getting this basically just sound, right? So that was enough of an experience for me to want to continue to pursue Fall Out Boy, and this song was the one that made me really want to made me a fan and made me want to continue to listen beyond that.
No, I think this song was the first single off the album too.
I think so, because it was on the one of the first. I think this one was on Rock Band, wasn't it? Either this one or Chicago. So 2 years ago, I can't remember.
I just remember seeing the video on, it's Fuse now, but it's Much Music USA at the time.
Mm.
And boy, does that video capture going to shows in a dingy little club or American Legion. Just kids everywhere jumping off of like a 2-foot stage and
trying to crowd surf, but they can't get the elevation to get up in
yeah.
everybody's arms.
But I mean, and that speaks to how far they've come. That their first video is that, and now they're
Mhm.
headlining stadiums with Green Day.
Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy to think about how far they've come, because I saw them in it wasn't like a crappy punk club, it wasn't like an American Legion, but it was a small club that I saw them in. Small enough that there might have been 300 people maybe there. Um I think my second show was played in front of more people than were at this show, to be
Oh
honest with you.
man.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. Um like it would like that's how, like, I guess, like medium, small to medium sized it was. Um but yeah, like, I don't know. I freaking love Dead on Arrival. Let's go into some lyrics there for just a second, because like I said, this is a big part of Fall Out Boy, especially with me. Usually I'm the music guy and I love Fall Out Boy's lyrics. So like, don't get me wrong, the music is outstanding.
Let's be honest. Fall Out Boy's lyrics have corrupted an entire generation of songwriter. So
It's true. It's
we
true.
all want to have super long titles and
Uh-huh. Yes, yes. And I think we'll actually get to that later. But anyways, so the chorus of this I think is really cool. This is side one, flip me over. I know I'm not your favorite record. The songs you grow to like never stick at first, so I'm writing you a chorus and here is your verse. Um I always thought, to me, is like you might not like me at first, but eventually I'm going to grow on you. And to me, that seemed more like uh, a line for the listener than the girl this album is about, right?
oh, okay.
That, like, keep listening, and you're like, if you don't like it now, eventually you will. Was kind of the way that I saw it. And for me, I mean, it took one hit of the chord, but anyway. So
To me, it speaks of. I mean, there's a very big underdog feel to this album.
hmm
Like this is definitely, as much as it's a breakup album, it's definitely an album for an underdog too.
hmm
Like it's about I'm this, I'm gonna be this. Like, and we can get into that with other songs. So
Right. Well, and the other thing too is that I think we've talked a little bit about this before, was that Fall Out Boy was basically made up of a band of guys who failed in other places, right?
right.
That on their own, in other bands, they didn't find any success, but as a collective unit, they had the talent and, I guess, the drive. I mean, it's going to take a considerable amount of drive to succeed here. So, yeah, I think the underdog approach is perfect. All right, sorry, we spent a lot of time on that one. Go ahead, Jason.
It's fine. So my next one is, you mentioned it, Chicago is so 2 years ago. Uh, I always like the opening line, "My heart is on my sleeve, wear it like a bruiser black eye." That's such a great Pete Wentz line.
It is.
Um, and then I I also loved in the second verse the line, "Boys like you are overrated, so save your breath." That is another great Pete Wentz. Like this song is like the perfect Pete Wentz song ever.
Yeah. And loaded words and loaded friends are loaded guns to our heads.
Yes.
Whoa. Yes. Yeah. Well, and I like the chorus, but there's a light on in Chicago, and I know I should be home. All the colors of the street signs, they remind me of the pickup truck out in front of your neighbor's house. Like, we all had, I shouldn't say all of us, because I don't want to make a sweeping declaration, and I don't deal in absolutes either, Jason, because that's something that Seth does. But anyways, that's a nerdy joke. So, um, but those of us who had girlfriends in high school, I'll say this: there was always the neighbor who had the easily identifiable car outside of their house, right? And
Yes.
and you can, like, I don't know about you, but I can picture the drive to every girlfriend's house. Like, I could close my eyes and be like, "Yep, right turn, left turn, right turn, left turn. Look for this sign, look for that sign, look for that tree. There's the truck, and there it is." Right? That's a perfect visual to a girl that's like, I know exactly where you're at. I know exactly how to get to your house, but at the same time, like, that was so 2 years ago. I'm over it.
Right.
It's awesome.
Well, I think we got to touch on because the bridge is also used in Save Rock and Roll by them. off of their comeback album from 2013, and I'm blanking on the name of it now.
Of
Oh
the
my,
song? I didn't notice that.
yeah. So in the beginning of Save Rock and Roll, it repeats
Uh-huh.
until your breathing stops forever.
Oh wow. I didn't realize that. I hadn't thought
Yeah,
about
so
it.
there's a callback to that song.
Uh-huh.
And it's really like I think that's great that they took that thing from their first album and put it into their comeback album in 2013.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, well, and I do feel like um they sample previous albums as they go. Like I know there's a couple things in From Under the Cork Tree, especially um if you go into the tour edition with the bonus tracks.
Yes.
There's definitely stuff in there that you heard on Take This to Your Grave. And I like that they still appreciate this album enough that they're willing to put that stuff that people like, but also like Easter eggs for the loyal fan, right? Because that's a very Fall Out Boy thing to do, is put an Easter egg in an album. So
Well, I mean, speaking of Easter eggs, I mean, there's a person who has a song about them on this album that isn't the ex-girlfriend.
yes, yes, and I think it's actually very direct.
It is very direct. Yes.
So so yeah, it's very good, and yeah, and I've actually always really liked that song, most like partially for that reason. I thought it was really cool. For those of you who don't know, Grenade Jumper is about a friend of theirs, and but anyways, all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we get back, we have three more songs from one of our favorite albums to talk about.
9 Plus Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. Weekly episodes for the entire baseball family where we talk all baseball all the time. Available on all your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. Come join our baseball family where we do baseball together.
I'm Jason.
And I'm David, and we're the hosts of the Non-North Sports Podcast. We're the home of sports talk for everyone. Join us bi-weekly as we talk about the happenings in sports.
You can find the Non Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever else you find your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Punk Popcast, where we're talking about Fall Out Boy's Take This to Your Grave. Okay, so Jason's gone through two. I've done one so far, so I'm going to go ahead and lead us off here. Let's talk about sending postcards from a plane crash. Wish you were here. Now, this is the longest. This is the first time I'd ever seen this long of a song title, like ever. Like this is a parenthetical, so it's a little bit longer, but at the same time, sending postcards from a plane crash is still decently long, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is like that one and Tell That Mick he just made my list of things to do today. So those two are the longest titles on this album, and it's just the beginning. It's only the beginning, and it just gets so much better. But anyways, this song is awesome. So I like the chorus. Every friend we ever had in common, I will sever the tie with you. You can think your lucky stars, everything I wish for will never come true. Let's break this down a little bit. Have you ever had an ex, Jason, where you're like, your friends are your friends and I am done with it?
So,
because I don't know if I've ever been to that point with anybody ever. Right? Like maybe like kind of one time, but that was like different. There was a geographical thing, but like I ended up running into one of her friends a few months down the road and she was like super stoked about it. So it was like fine,
I dated one of my ex's friends, so I don't know if I'm qualified to talk about this.
I think there's a rule about that. But there are plenty of rules that have been broken on this show already, so that's fine. I'll allow it. But no, like I don't think I've ever been to that, like really been to that point though. Like there was one girl I had an ugly breakup with, and her friends were like actually on my side, even though there was like no reason for there to even be sides. Like her friends were like, "No, you're fine, you're good. Like don't worry about it." She's just being dumb. Like okay, that's cool, whatever. But then you can think your lucky stars, everything I wish for will never come true. Oh, whoa. Okay. Now, and I think we see some of these wishes on this album, right? That's just such a funny line to me. That like you better be glad that my wishes don't come true because the things you would have to deal with, the hell you would go through. Like that's intense. It's intense to me.
Almost every song on this album lyrically is very intense. I mean, one of my favorite lines in this song is from the first verse where he says, "My insides are copper. I'd kill to make them gold."
I was just looking at that.
That is such a great line, and it's
Mhm.
definitely one, you know, as a pop punk guy, it's definitely one I think I can identify with, because there's that like hint of insecurity we all had. All of us who listen to pop punk, like we wouldn't listen to it if there wasn't that little
Mhm.
bit of insecurity within us. It's
Yeah.
a very identifiable idea.
It really is. Well, and the next line too is "Conversation got me here. Another night alone in the city." That's kind of how things start, you know, which
Yeah.
I think is cool. It's a really simple line, but it's always like, yeah, if I hadn't had that conversation, I wouldn't be in this mess, you know.
Right.
So I think it's cool. I think it's a good line. But this song all around though, like the music, it's a little bit, I don't want to say like milder, but at the same time, it doesn't hit as hard as some of the other songs on this album, right? Which is fine. It's a little bit of that ebb and flow, that rise and fall that people talk about is necessary for an album. And for me, it's good because, like I said, like I don't like the drastic drop. I have an
Yeah.
issue with that sometimes. And it's just enough of a drop that it's fine. You can kind of recover from what's going on around it, but it's not so much of a screeching halt that you're like losing momentum on the music. So I think that's the other thing that I really like about this song.
And I think one more thing we got to touch upon with this song, because it is a recurring theme in Fall Out Boy songs as the years go on.
Mhm.
Innuendo.
Oh, so much of it. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
um,
Like,
I that first line in the second verse is is right where it's at in this song.
yeah. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I have seen sinking ships go down with more grace than you. There we go. Yeah, and
Just the
it just
beginning
gets.
of innuendo in their songs.
I feel like it gets more and more. I don't know, less innuendo-y and more explicit as things go on, because going back and listening to From Under the Cork Tree and also Infinity on High recently, like, oh yeah, okay, a little bit more life experience, I know exactly what that means.
Infinity and High might be the most overt.
Yeah, especially with the song titles too.
I think From Under the Cork Tree though is peak,
Yeah.
because almost every song has some kind of innuendo in it.
Yeah, it does. It does. I can't wait to get to that album next week. That's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one and Folly Ado. No, as much as I love this album, those are two really great albums too.
They are. And that's the thing. That's part of the problem that we have, is that like we want to talk about these albums in their entirety. We want to talk about, like, we could do an entire Fall Out Boy podcast. We could do an episodic, like one series, one season Fall Out Boy podcast without speaking to anybody or doing more than like basic superficial research, because there's a lot there and it's a lot of fun and it's awesome. So
yeah, I agree.
Anyway. All right, Jason, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to go with the other single off this album, the quote unquote hit off this album, Grand Theft Autumn / Where Is Your Boy. I mean, this was the song that hooked me in. I remember seeing it on Much Music USA. Saw the video, saw the girl in the video who's in like 100 other videos from bands of this genre.
I don't know. Now that you mention it, I don't know if I've ever seen the video. I'll have to watch it when we're done.
It's a little creepy, actually, because the dude is like filming the girl getting like ready for the day. And yeah, anyway.
Well, I think that's where that might be the inspiration for the lyrics for Sugar We're Going Down come from.
It might be, actually.
It might be your actual experience there.
So little story time.
Okay.
Because I had mentioned in the Blink 182 episode for Take Off Your Pants and Jacket about first date.
Right.
And I had told the story about the first date. So after Jamie got out of my car and she got in her car to leave, I plugged my very broke, very cheap RCA MP3 player into my auxiliary
Your tape-
jack in my car.
Oh, I think I say your tape adapter, man.
No, because it was a new car. It was a
Okay.
brand new 2007 car.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
I had money set aside to get a new car that was reliable. Um,
it didn't have a tape deck.
that did not actually have a tape deck. It was my first car without one. No,
That's
no
fancy.
joke.
That's fancy.
Power
Super
windows.
bougie.
It was. Okay, sidebar. So it was a
Sorry, I
Dodge
interrupted your story.
it was a Dodge Caliber. And like the thing that blew David, who you know is my co-host on the Non Their Sports Pod, the thing that blew his mind is that my glove box also had a cooling agent in it, so you could
Nice.
store drinks and keep them cold.
That is bougie. I like that.
I've never seen another car. It was only in that Dodge Caliber. But okay, anyway. So I'm in the car. I'm driving home. I have an hour-long drive. I plugged the MP3 player in, and I just set it on shuffle because it was broke. It had an LCD screen. Like I couldn't select songs. It was just what it was, right? And the first song that came on was the acoustic version of "Where Is Your Boy Tonight" or Grand Theft Auto.
Okay.
And that song has a really special place in my heart because I go back and I listen to the lyrics and I think about, and I mentioned Jamie and I were still technically seeing other people when we first went on our date.
Right.
Because we didn't know what this was going to be.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And I think of the chorus, "Where is your boy tonight? I hope he is a gentleman," because where was he that night? Because I know where I was. But
no,
that's me.
That's good though. I like that. No, because that chorus, that's one of my favorite choruses. Like I told you before that I wasn't super sold on this song when I first heard it. And I don't know if it was the flow or what. I don't know. Like looking back, I have no explanation for it because it's a really good song. I like it a lot. The way that, yeah, it's awesome. But this chorus is outstanding. Like you said, I hope he's a gentleman. Maybe he won't find out what I know. You were the last good thing about this part of town. So when I first got this album, I was listening to it all the time, like nonstop. And so I was walking around the house one time and I was home from college and I was singing the chorus because it's stuck in my head. It's infectious. Yeah. And my sister goes, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a Fall Out Boy song." She goes, "What were the lyrics?" And I told her, she's like, "That's brutal," and walked off. I hadn't even thought about it until then. I was like, huh, yeah, that's mean, but that's fine. So I'm cool with it. Yeah. I was like, that's just the beginning. That is the tip of the iceberg, my friend.
I always like there were a couple lines I always liked. I always liked "My chances in the hope that I'd forget that you hate him more than you notice I wrote this for you." That's such a great line. And I always love "Someday I'll appreciate and value, get off my ass and call you," because again, that goes back to the whole underdog theme on this album.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I like, this is one of my favorite lines too. "I'll sport my brand new fashion of waking up with pants on at 4 p.m. I don't know why. I've always thought that was a funny line for like no particular reason, no connection. I like that line a lot. I've always thought it was really funny.
It's clever and it's probably true based on what we know about Pete Wentz.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. But there's one more line that what was it? It's the pre-chorus. "You need him, I could be him. I could be an accident, but I'm still trying. And that's more than I can say for him." That like the frustration of like seeing somebody you care about, even if it doesn't have to be an ex-girlfriend, it could just be a friend, putting in effort with somebody who is putting in no effort back, right? Basically just keeping you on the hook. It's really frustrating to see that. And it's like, I'm still trying, like, even it's just like, I'm still trying, like in this case, obviously, to do what's right for you, to be with you, whatever. But even as like a friend, like, I'm trying to be a good friend to you by telling you this, and they're putting in zero effort for what you want in the end. And I think that's a perfect explanation of that in just a few words. And it's another one of those completely relatable things, because I've been there with a few people, like a few of my friends in my life, and I was like, yeah, I get it 100%. So,
One more thing I want to touch on, because I'm such a mark for this song. The
Mhm.
harmonies in the bridge.
Yes.
That is a highlight of this song to me.
Yep. So I absolutely 100% agree with you, because I feel like that was just the beginning of what we were going to see out of Fall Out Boy in the future. That there's like perfect harmonizing, because there's certain parts throughout this album where Pete Wentz isn't the best vocalist, but it fits, right?
Right.
But this, like, I don't know if they did voiceover with Patrick Stump on this, but it's perfect.
No,
And
it is.
it's a very good beginning to future Fall Out Boy, and it's great.
Let me throw this out there before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought of Sugar We're Going Down as a sequel?
Not until today, honestly.
I've always, ever since that song came out, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this is like almost like a sequel to this song.
Maybe that's why it was their first single off that.
I don't know why I've always had that thought, but I just wanted to throw it out there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, really though, until you mentioned the music video, and we got talking about that, I had never thought of it as a sequel, and it very well could be. So maybe we'll talk about that more next time.
Yeah.
All right, my last one is actually this song that, like, this, you know how you get an album and you find a song that really sticks and you listen to it on repeat? It was this one. And it's because I'm an intro to a song guy. Like, I'm a big sucker for an intro to a song. It's Homesick at Space Camp. This was one of my favorite guitar riffs. I had been playing guitar at this point for probably 2 or 3 years, and I wanted to learn how to play this song because I just loved it. But the thing is that Fall Out Boy's strumming patterns are so radically different from anything I had been playing up to that point, anything that I had been learning by other bands that I had been listening to. Like, that's part of I think that's one of the things that appealed to me, is that the music was the same concept, but it sounded different. Right? And Homesick at Space Camp was really the first thing for me that was like the step up from Messed, Homegrown, Simple Plan, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lump them all together, but like that kind of that lower, mellower sound that Take This to Your Grave definitely has influence from guys who played in hardcore bands and metal bands. And they brought it into, you and I were talking earlier about how Fall Out Boy released those baseball cards.
Yes.
With this album, and the one for the band specifically says they consider themselves softcore. And I love that identifier for this genre, because it's like, it's harder than like typical pop punk, right? It's harder than Blink-182, Green Day, and Mess, like I talked about. But at the same time, it's not hardcore, because there's not the screaming and there's not the thrash and whatever, So it was my first introduction to the other side of pop punk, and I loved it, everything about it. And like I said, it was the intro to this song was just hooked me from the first chord, and I loved it so much. And it's not even like, I guess you could go back to the chorus, just like all of them. Tonight the headphones will deliver you the words that I can't say. Tonight I'm writing you a million miles away. Tonight is all about we miss you. Tonight
we miss you.
We miss you tonight. Yeah, over and over again. But that's a perfect way to deliver a love note to somebody that you can't, that like repeated. It's coming through your headphones, and yeah, I thought I liked this song.
I love
I thought it was great.
how that chorus bleeds right into the second verse.
When I first heard this song, like the first couple times, I was like, I don't know that there's even actually like a verse chorus in this song, because it is so seamless.
It's beautiful. I hate to say that word and sound trite, but it is. It's phenomenal how they just blend that right in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole song flows together really well. It, like, into the bridge, everything, and then the outro, they just play the chorus again, but they slow it down a little bit and make it acoustic. And sometimes I have an issue when bands do that, just because it doesn't always fit. It feels like it just drops off a cliff. But this one has a steady decline into the acoustic, and then it's just like a perfect stop at the end because it's so short and mild and mellow. But the rest of the song drives so fast and so hard that it's like you're not coming to a screeching halt. It's like when you go to stop at a stoplight, you gradually slow and stop. And I feel like that's what that does. It's a nice little drop.
What I love about the chorus, specifically tonight, the headphones will deliver you the words that I can't say. It's such a call to those of us who've made mixtapes or mix CDs and given it to that person you have a thing for, and it doesn't have to be as overt as, oh, I made a mixtape for you. Like, Brand New has a song called Mixtape for Christ's sake. This isn't as overt, which I really appreciate in this song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good. I like it, and it is the perfect explanation for a mixtape. It's awesome. All right, I think we're probably going to agree on our rating for this song or for this album, right?
I'm assuming.
I'm assuming. So I'm just going to throw it up there for those of you not watching on YouTube. Without saying anything to one another about this, we've both given this a 100.
Yes.
So it is essential pop punk. And for me, part of it is that it's different. Like I talked about, it's different from traditional pop punk. It opened up other avenues for other bands who did sound different to come into the pop punk scene and to be, I don't know if necessarily more welcomed, but more easily accepted and easier to listen to, which is crazy because they are considerably harder than what we were used to, right?
They're definitely more on, I mean, like you said, they're more on the hardcore edge of pop punk on this album, because it's not as overly poppy as like I hate to say it, but like a Simple Plan.
Yeah.
It's a mature album, even if some of the lyrics are immature.
Yeah. It has a mature message coming from an immature person.
But it's definitely,
but it's
dare
fun.
I say, it might be one of the most influential pop punk albums of all time.
I mean, yes, I would totally agree with you because like we talked about, it opened the door for people to come up with ridiculous song titles that have nothing to do with the song.
Which I cannot wait to get into From Under the Cork Tree, because one of my favorite song titles isn't even the title that the song is on the album because of a lawsuit. So
Yes. And I'll tell you this, is that this album and From Under the Cork Tree had a lot of influence on our songwriting when my buddy and I were writing an unrecorded album. So
no, same with me. This album and Deja Entendu for me had a huge influence on the songs I was writing at the time for the band I was in.
Yeah. It's awesome. So we'll get to those eventually. But for now, let us know what you think about Take This to Your Grave. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. Because if you like Fall Out Boy at all, you'll love it. If you don't like Fall Out Boy, I'm sure you'll still like it. Because it's fantastic. It's near perfect from beginning to end. I haven't been able to find a flaw. And I've been listening to this album regularly now for almost 2 decades. But anyways,
that hurts.
That's a little depressing to think about. But it's the truth. So, but reach out to us on Twitter. At Punk Popcast. Jason will respond to you, and I'll do my best to respond via my Twitter account, which is at Jojo Corner. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can get me there. And Jason, what's your Twitter? You want to let them know?
At X Jason Dag X, because in my heart, I'm still a straight edge kid, even though I'm not straight edge anymore.
Very good. I love it. Excellent. And with that, we will catch you next week.
See ya.